to the role of all kings. Okay? Okay? That's basically he's saying, I was hired by King Balak, and my role was what? To go ahead and do a curse of Israel. But if I compare my role to the role of who? Melech Malchei Amlachim, the king of all kings, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how can I do otherwise? That's the opening forward to explain that he can't go ahead and curse Israel. Because God himself doesn't curse Israel. Okay? Now, in other words, that's point number one. I can't go up against God. He's not cursing Israel. Furthermore, what is the proper intellectual observation of God when he's looking at Israel? And now, yes, we're learning the tenets, the foundations of the faith of the Jewish people, what we are about, and what's coming out of the mouth of this Gentile who's a wicked person, but Hashem is in control of his mouth. Hashem is prophesizing. He has to go ahead and say these words. And now we're up to, Pasuk Tet, verse 9. Ki meirosh tzurim erenu. There's a lot of nice songs about this. You can YouTube it tonight. From the top of a tzur. Remember, he brought Balak brought Bilam to the top of the mountain area. Do you remember where we learned? And they're on top of these mountain areas, Bamot Baal, all the high places. Ki meirosh tzurim, physically, from the top of a tzur, which means rocks. Erenu, I see them. Umigvaot, and on top of the hills, gvaot ashurenu. In other words, yes, there's a simple meaning, but the more pnimiut meaning is, how is Israel grasped, observed by Hashem? Come, our great sages, Chazal, Chachamim in blessed memory. Rashi certainly brings this matter, this midrashic understanding. You can see it in verse 9. That's what I'm going to be explaining here. Chazal, our sages, grasp this understanding that God looks at the fundamentals, the beginning of who we are. Where do we come from? Tzur is a nickname or a metaphor for the avot, the patriarchs. Why are they metaphorized like the word tzur? Because they're strong and mighty, not 6'4", 250, a defensive end, but they're strong and mighty in their spirituality, in their faith, not bending in every situation. And therefore, if there's a problem, today's generation, God doesn't only look now. Hashem doesn't suffer what from so many people suffer. It's called the nowism. Nowism, illness. Everything is now. What mapito? We're three-dimensional people. We live our lives now based on what we learned about in the past and what we acted and behaved as a nation with our vision of the future. 3 dimensions. And therefore, God looks at their beginning. Okay? And what do we notice? Not only do we come from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Henam levadad yishkon. Physically, when he's standing on top of the mountain and looking down to the prairie, to the lowland area, we're not mingling. We're not living in little New York with a little of the Italians and the Puerto Ricans and the Chinese and this and that. No, that's when you're in a galut, when you don't have a choice. But they, even then, opposite the Jericho Jordan River, they are living alone. Am levadad yishkon, they shall dwell alone. Why alone? Not because we're loners, but because we're not to be mingling with others. We have to build ourselves. The cardo, the center of Israel is to be built spiritually with values and attributes and character traits and faith. And therefore, hin am levadad yishkon. We're so high up, we dwell alone. Uvagoyim lo yitchashav. What does it mean we don't take into consideration with the nations? We're so high in our value system. We're so high in our spirituality and our connection to God. We don't have the same considerations that nations in the world have. Most of their considerations are like the great philosopher John Dewey, is pragmatism. Be pragmatic. Your parent might come and say, what are you learning in yeshiva for? Are you going to get a certificate? Can you take that to the grocery store? Everything is being pragmatic. You have to get something out of it. No. Torah is the objective of our lives. The character traits of the avot is what we want to be impressed with. And therefore, we're elevated above the ethical levels of any nation. And that's why we're dwelling alone. We don't mingle with their value systems. And therefore, we don't have the same considerations as they have. This nation, remember this, gentlemen, is the giant of all giants. Our value systems are so high. Our abilities to delve into all the fine details of every little matter in life stems from the Gemara. The details of details in the laws of torts and damages and neighborly relations and renting and hiring and borrowing and lending. We don't have katanut. We don't have smallness in life. We have gadlut, greatness of life. Okay? And therefore, you can't put Israel into a frame. Why? Because we stem from God. As he says now in the next pasuk in verse 10, Mi mana, who can count? Afar Yaakov. The what? The what? Afar. Which means? The dust of Israel. The truth is, we're not multiple in number like the dust of the earth. We were never meant to be like the Chinese. Have they passed 50 million people already? 50 billion. Yes. Okay. We were never meant to be like the Chinese. Quote, Book of Devarim, Ki atem ha'me'at mikol ha'amim. You are the few of all the nations. Our greatness is not quantity. Rather, quality. Hebrew? Quality. No, don't let him do it. Tell him. Ichut. There you go. As opposed to kamut. Kama is quantity. Ichut, how is quality. Mi manaf, you can't count Israel, meaning you can't put them into criteria, into a classification, into a frame. Your beautiful painting is outstanding. And when I go to the store and put a frame, it'll give me more focus. Yeah. But Hashem's making of Israel, we belong to the absolute, we belong to the eternity, we belong to the non-ending, we're infinite in quality. This, I learned from Rav Kashtia, one of my Rebbes, is explaining why Balak is making a mistake hiring Bil'am. Chaval on oil and his money, should ask for a refund. Bil'am cannot place ayin hara on Israel because the ayin hara doesn't control them. We're above ayin hara, like we're above the mazalot that you asked about the other day. You can't, just like you can't count them, you cannot categorize them. Why? Because we are a divine nation. And just like you cannot categorize or define or put God inside a frame, so too, you cannot define, categorize, and frame the nation of Israel. Mark Twain. What? These guys have been dispersed for 2,000 years and they're still alive? Wow. How could it be? One lamb among 70 wolves and we're still in existence? And now after 2,000 years of Galut and our return to our redemption, our return to ourselves, to our nation, to our lives, to our nature, within 70, 75 years, we're one of the most fabulous countries in the world with the highest rate of progress and happiness in this country, in spite of the obvious security and social tensions that we have here and so on and so forth. Okay? And then, Mr. Bilam, I'd like to interview you from Machon Meir News. If you could die, Mr. Bilam, what kind of death would you like? Let's see what he says. In the middle of verse 10. Tamot nafshi mot yesharim. May my soul die the death of yesharim. Please tell me, who is this nickname about? Yesharim. Not tzaddikim, not hasidim, but yesharim. Who are the yesharim?
Tzaddikim.
It doesn't say tzaddikim.
Right ones.
Who are?
Oh, that's straight.
Which that to be so. Yeah, right.
Who are? This is a nickname. Who?
It's like the Sharon is like straight.
You're right. Upright. Yeah, who are the Yesharim? It's a nickname for Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They are nicknamed the Yesharim. May I die the death of the Yesharim. Why? Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov called Yesharim. They don't make accounts. They honor mankind. They respect anyone created in the divine image. When these people that bow down to the dust of the earth, the lowest of the lowest, they still honor them. Bring them food and honor and give them honor. We have love. Why? Because our love stems from the love of God. And He created mankind, so we will love anyone and everyone in mankind unless He's trying to kill us and do bad to us. We don't love enemies, of course. I don't have to teach you that. So the avot are called Yesharim, not tzaddikim, not chasidim. God, unfortunately, as the Netziv Volozhin writes in his intro, was it to Breshit? Yeah, to Breshit. You very well know that the scholars of the Second Temple period of time, they were not Yesharim. There was so much enmity, hatred of fellow Jews. Sinat china, right? Of innocent hatred was the Second Temple destroyed. Oh, your keeper's like that. I'm not like you. Oh, you get haircuts like that. I'm not going to be with you. Your Yirat Shamayim is not like my Yirat Shamayim. No, that's not us. That's not the real us. We didn't act with yosher, with honesty, with innocent love. And that's the correction today of our generation. We have to promote the love of all of Israel. So what if the Yirat Shamayim is not like yours? So what? What do you size people up just by their Yirat Shamayim? Every Jew is a great Jew. Every Jew is full of mitzvot like the pomegranate seeds. Every Jew has goodness inside him. Is he at fault that he was not sent to Machon Meir 10 years ago, 20 years ago? And he's a far leftist? He's not at fault. What do you want from him? His parents didn't educate him. His grandparents came here from the intellectual Enlightenment period that the Germans and French said we will be the best Germans and we'll be the best French and the best Austrians. Right? A Jew is not a lethargic part of a Jew. I'll show the goyim, I'll be a better goy than he is. Right? Which led to so much assimilation in Europe, right? In the Ashkenazi countries, not by the Sephardi countries. They stayed strong, close to the tradition. They didn't have a lot of anti-Semitism in Morocco and in Libya and all those, and Iran and so on and so forth. I've gone off of the topic. I'm stopping. I'm going back right now. Thank you. So, gentlemen, Balak is a little disappointed here in verse 12, isn't he? What does Balak say? What's going on here? I hired you to curse him, and you're blessing them. But look at let's read it together first. Yud Aleph. Vayomer Balak el Bilam. Ma'asitale, what did you do? Lakov oivai lekachich. I took you to curse my enemies. V'hinei, and suddenly what did you do? Surprise. Beirachta varech. Surely you've blessed them. Vayan vayomar. Who's replying, gentlemen? Bilam. Verse 12. Vayan vayomar. Hello, surely. Hello is not Hello. Hello. It's okay. Hello. Finger on the place. Follow the text. Hello. Et asher yasim Adonai befi. Oto eshmor ledaber. I'm not independent. Whatever God puts in my mouth, I have to speak. Bilam is forced to bless the Jewish people. But Balak doesn't give up. He has a lot of enthusiasm. He tries again. Pasuk Yud Gimel verse 13. Vayomer la Balak, lecha na'iti, lecha, from the word lech. Put your finger on the place. Vayomer la Balak lecha na, but he's polite. Please, iti. Maybe it comes from England, I'm not sure. El makom acher. Let's go to a different place. Asher tirenu misham. You have the power of ayin hara. Maybe from a different place, if you visualize and see them. Ephes katsehu tira. Maybe look at their edge, where they're settled at the end of them. The people that are extremes, the low people of the Jewish people. V'chula, but all of them low till you can. V'kavna misham. In other words, Balak thinks that Mr. Bilam just made a mistake in his observation, in his understanding. And therefore, a mess up happened and he blessed them instead of cursing them. Maybe from a different standpoint, from a different view, looking at the edge, the weakness, the lowlifes of the Jewish people. Maybe you look at the katzeh, the edge, not the strong people, the people that are low levels. Maybe you'll be able to curse them at least, part of them. Maybe God will agree. That's his understanding. God will agree to that. What does he do? Verse 14. Vayikachehu. Is there a suffix at the end of this verb? Vayikachehu. Which part is the suffix? Hevav. Vayikachehu. Vayikach oto. And he took him. You see how it's conjugated here in the Bible? He takes him to a place called Sedei Sofim. On the one hand, a field, something wide open. And from there, Sofim. What's the name of that mountain overlooking the important Temple Mount? What's the name of that mountain?
Olives? Zaytin? Har Zaytin?
Come on, guys. What's the name of that mountain overlooking the Temple Mount?
Har Zaytin.
He said that already 3 times.
Yeah.
It's not that one.
What yeah? Well,
Har Ha-So-Fim. What Mount, what do they call it in English? Mount Scopus? Is that what they call it? Mount Scopus? Thank you. Har Ha-So-Fim. Litzpo, to scope. To look from a distance. Do you see it? Look, put your finger in the place, verse 14. Vayikacheu Sedei Sofim. He takes him to another place, and this will be the preamble to metaphor number 2, mashal number 2. El Rosh HaPiska. Wow. The top of the place itself. Maybe from here, after now that Bilam just justified and said, well, I can't curse these people, they're a blessed nation from God. And now we're going to learn what is the reason, I repeat, what is the reason God is always blessing Israel? So now Balak takes him to the head of this mountain, the summit, Pisgah, Vayiven Shiva Mizbachot, like he did before, Vaya'al Par Va'ayel B'Mizbech, and he questions, where are the 7 Palim, where are the 7 Elim? Maybe they're there, but the Torah decided to talk in a short way, reading the singular. Vayomer Balak, verse 15, Hityatzevko, stay there. Bilam says, that's enough. Stand here, erect Allah Lotecha by your korban, your offering. Va'anochi, and I, Ikareko. Okay? Yesterday, Zechariah looked up a pasuk in the Chumash, and he found out that word mikra was with the letter Aleph. Very good. Where the word ikare here ends with the letter Hey. We said yesterday mikra, incidentally, not. He's hoping that maybe incidentally God will appear to him. He doesn't have a channel that he can now radio wave get through and get connected to God like Moshe Rabbeinu can speak to God any and every time he wants to. And what happens? We don't know how long. Verse Tetzayim, Vayikar Hashem el Bilam. Incidentally, God appears. God speaks to him. Sorry. Vayasem davar b'fiv. And now we're ready for Mashal number 2. I'm skipping to Yudchet, verse 18. Please follow. Vayisam mishalo. He carries. He uplifts. Very metaphorical. Very poetic. His mashal, his proverb, Vayomar, and he now says the second mashal number 2. Kum Balak Ushma. You got to hear this. Hazina Adai, pay attention to me, Benot Tzipor, the son of Tzipor. And now, again, the theme of mashal number 2, indifferent to mashal number 1, will be the justification, Bilam's justification or excuse or reasoning why he cannot curse Israel. Okay? Or shall we say, basically, there's the reason I cannot curse Israel is the following. Lo ish el.
For the Christians.
This is exactly for the Christian word. God is not a man, unlike Christian theology. V'chazev, then he changes his mind and lies. Uven adam, he's not a ben adam. V'itnacham, and he changes his mind. Mr. Balak, you want what, God to change his mind? The Christian world drank a l'chaim. You know what a l'chaim is?
Mhm.
To life. Let's take out some whiskey. No, you don't have whiskey. We'll drink some water. And they drank, what is it called? A toast? Is that what they say in English?
Yeah.
They made a toast. When Hitler, Yamach Shemo, killed 6 million brothers and sisters of ours, finito. That's what they thought. We're goners. We're not. That's it. We're gone. We're going to be erased off of the map. A few years later, the Declaration of the United Nations, after a majority vote, that there is a state of Israel. Okay? And that when we declared it on the 5th of Iyar, that Friday afternoon in Tel Aviv Museum, that was the biggest, that's what Rav Tzvi the Cook would explain to us, the biggest slap in the face to the Christian world. Because the Christian world has been saying now for 2,000 years, they are the chosen people. They are the treasured people. They're the real chosen people of God. And we know that it's phony baloney. Doesn't have any truth to it whatsoever. What really hurt the Christian world? That the Jewish people are back and kicking, alive for the first time in 2,000 years. We have a state. And we're bringing livelihood, and we're bringing uniqueness and morals and values and technology and security. And wow, God doesn't change his mind. 2,000 years, 3,000, 35 years, he chose the Jewish people. 1,000 years later, he chose the Greeks. He doesn't change his mind. Human beings, change their mind. Today, at 7:35, at 7:20, I bought cherry tomatoes in the grocery store in Beit El. Next week, I might buy cherry tomatoes in a different supermarket. I changed my mind. But the Jewish people are not cherry tomatoes. He's God. The center, the focal point of the world is the nation of Israel, chosen by God. We're a holy nation. And our holiness is not dependent upon if I put on tefillin, if I gave charity, or I didn't. The choice of the nation preceded the giving of the Torah. We can reveal the greatness of who we are and what we have by learning the Torah and performing the mitzvot. But even if I don't, quote, Yisrael shechata, Yisrael. I should really leave it for the next parable. A Jew that sins is still Israel. The keeping of a mitzvah doesn't make him Jewish. And therefore, right now, a justification why he cannot curse Israel, because Israel belongs to God. Israel belongs to God. God doesn't lie. God doesn't change his mind. Who changes his mind? Mankind. Like King David writes in 116, Ani amarti bechovzi kol adam kozev. Every man is a liar. David experienced so many of his own people, supporters, going up against him, like Shaul the king, like his own son called Avshalom, and so on and so forth. God doesn't change his mind. Hahu amar velo yaseh. Will God say something and not fulfill it? V'diber and speak velo yikimenu. You see how poetic it is? Pasuk 20. Hinei varech lekachti. I took. You're asking me, what are the words of God? I got to bless them. Uverech velo shivena. I can only bless them, and I can't go back on what I'm saying. So here it is, and now we're seeing the second bayit, the second part of Mashal number 2 here. Okay, the second part of this Mashal, the reason for why Israel is so blessed. What happens when Israel accumulates sins and sins and sins? Is that really us? Some of you know Christian theology that they believe in original sin. It's part of nature. It's part of the tendency of man to sin. We don't believe that. It's garbage. You know what garbage is? Okay? It's garbage. Why? Because we believe the soul wants to cling on to God. The Yetzer Tov wants to be serving Hashem, praying to God, doing charity, doing kindness, and so on and so forth. And when we sin, it's a mistake. It's not the real us. And therefore, God's view on Israel when we sin, Pasuk 21, I'm reading. Please put your finger on the place. Lo hibit aven biyakov, poetry, velo ra amal biyisrael. Adonai Elohav imo, utruat melech bo. Truah is that the only meaning here? I'm going to prove to you in a moment that it's not. Lo hibit aven biyakov. God, who observes and analyzes Israel even when they're sinning, he doesn't observe, he doesn't focus on their sins because it's not the real us. A sin is a mistake, it's an error, it's not the real part of what the Jewish people are about, and therefore that's not a main thing. Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we're human beings, but yes, we have the power of tshuva. And the power of tshuva that God gave to the Jewish people is stronger than an eraser. Not only can we erase sin, but as the Gemara says in Masechet Yoma, that when we do tshuva, as we read the book of Rav Kook, a fantastic sefer called Orot Tshuva, the Lights of Penitence, and it brings the obvious words of our sages in Masechet Yoma, that if we do tshuva, let's say out of fear, okay, so we're erasing that negative energy of the sin. But Chazal said that if we do tshuva out of love, all that negativity ricochets and turns into positivity. Wow! You had a minus 30 on your scoreboard because of various sins. And now you went to Machon Meir. You fall in love with Torah and Hashem and Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. And you're happy-go-lucky and you love doing tshuva and you're doing it out of love. And all of a sudden you go look at your scoreboard and says, it was minus 30. How is it positive 30 now? Wow! The tshuva that I did out of love takes this donot, all those wanting sins, those intentional sins, and turns it into intentional positive energy mitzvot. Wow. That's amazing. I think I'm going to do more of this tshuva business. Would you like to join me? Yeah. So let's do it. Okay? Hashem Elokav bo utruat melech. Truah doesn't have to mean Vayikra chapter 19. Amar Rabbi Akiva, Ze klal gadol batorah. Finish the sentence that Rabbi Akiva said. Rabbi Akiva says, this is the main rule of the Torah. Which one? I'm waiting, I'm patient.
Connect.
Ve'ahavta. Say it. L're'acha. Very good, Moshe. Kamocha. You shall love your friend like you love yourself. Re'ah, re'im are friends. Truat melechba. We're the friends of God. Okay? We have a friendship with God. We're so close to Him and He's so close to us. Therefore, sin is not a major thing. The Christian world made such a big mistake when they said, because Israel sinned and they were thrown out of their country, God has forsaken the Jewish people. Hogwash. Dirt. Lies. But all this is part of God's plan. All this Christian garbage that appears is helping us, forcing us to clarify, to discern, to know exactly what is the faith of Israel and what is not. There's a role in these lies in the world in these days that we're coming back, to strengthen ourselves, to clarify and purify our faith. All of us that have arrived from every different galut, we've brought a mixture of dirt, spiritual pollution, wrong values. And that's why we're here, to correct ourselves, to mend the ways. That's what we're here for. And we can say thank you for Christianity for that, because it's going to force us. We all grew up, for those in the Western Christian world, and we have a lot of mixtures of wrong thoughts and ideas and habits and behavior. And now we're coming out of that jungle and we're coming to our natural habitat. The land of Israel is our natural habitat. You don't see it, but there's holiness in the soil. There's purity in the air. It's not going to happen in one day, and not in 1 week, and not in 1 month. It may take decades. It may take generations, as some of you know. It may be not so hard. It may be easy to take the Jew out of the galut, but to take the galut out of the Jew is a harder work, and it may take some time. Okay? Let's go on. I'm skipping and I'm going to 23, the end of this, the next bayit, the next part of Proverb number 2, verse 23. Ki, next 2 words. Ki lo nachash b'Yaakov. What is not applicable to Jacob, to our way of life? Sorcery. Velo kesem b'Yisrael. Okay, we're not fortune tellers. We're not a religion. We're not sorcery. We don't have magic inside ourselves. Okay, they don't grasp. They don't have a place in the Jewish people in our culture. Okay, why? Ka'et, right now, meaning also for the future. Okay. Ye'amer liYaakov Yisrael ma pa'al el. What's going to happen in the future is the world's going to talk about the fantastic achievements of God. They're going to talk about Israel, but the achievements are done by God through Israel. In other words, what will be related to in the future, and it'll have an impact on today about the great achievements, awards, attainments of this Jewish people, and all of it will be from God, through the prophets, through the leaders. Okay? We're not dependent upon sorcery or magic. We have God's Shekhinah, divine presence inside us. Gentlemen, you can go to university. I'm not undermining it. And you can study in every faculty, major profession, sociology, engineering, mathematics, liberal arts, and all this. But through all of that, you're not going to understand who the Jewish people are. Only through the Torah, through the Kuzari, through the Maharal of Prague, through Rav Kook, through the Ramchal, will we really understand in depth who are the Jewish people, who we are and what we're about. Okay? And now, any lions inside this classroom? Some of you are lions, I know. Here we are, Pasuk Kav Daled, the likening of us to a lion. Pasuk 24. Hein am, there's another song about this, you can YouTube this tonight as well. Hein am kilavi yakum. We're a nation that will stand up like a baby cub. We get up in the morning, we have to overcome our tiredness. And I don't know if you have, but I have a Yetzer Hara. Okay? And you know what my Yetzer Hara says? Menachem, stay in bed for a few more minutes. Come on, remember, you only got 4.5 hours of sleep. You deserve another 5 minutes. He's why. He has a PhD from Cambridge and Harvard. You know, he knows how to outwit you in different ways. And all of a sudden, you get up. Wow, it's an hour and a half since you woke up in that air. No, we get up like lion cubs. Rah! Okay, we roar like lions. V'chari and lions yitnasa. We shall get up and overcome our matters. Okay? The Rashi really brought the midrashic understanding here is that when we get up in the morning from our sleep, that we get up to overcome whatever difficulties to get to the shacharit, to the prayer service, or we're like lions to snatch mitzvot. And when there's an opportunity to do a commandment like this or that, we don't sit back and say, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. No. Zrizut, alacrity. As we learn in the famous Braita of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair in his introduction to the Mesilat Yesharim about how we build different matters, yes, and it's called Zrizut. Alacrity, quickness, alertness. That's who we are. Okay? And of course, there's a lot of prophecy here talking about King David, as it says in the second half of this verse of 24. Lo yishkav ad yochal teref. We will not lie until we eat, devour a prey. It could be talking about the wars of King David in the future. Ken, we learning about the war victories that we're going to be winning when we get into Canaan. And the closest war, the Ebenezer says, which we're going to learn next week, will be the war of revenge against which nation will be up here? Against Midian. We're going to be learning about that. Okay. Wow. After hearing about the Jewish people so much, Balak says, wow, what can I do? I can't believe what's going on here. Pasuk 25, after we've now finished proverb number 2. Vayomer Balak el Bilam, Gam kov lo tikavenu, Gam barech lo tivarchenu. What, does he have problems, huh? He's angry. I didn't ask you to bless them. I asked you to curse them. Not only are you not cursing them, you're also blessing them. So he gives him a zap. He's fuming now at Mr. Bilam. What is the reaction of Bilam? Pasuk Kavav, verse 26. Vaya'an Bilam. Look at me. Vaya'an. What is the verb? La'anot. What is la'anot?
Ana, respond.
To respond. La'anot. The opposite of? Lish'ol. Lish'ol, to ask. La'anot, to answer, to reply. The reply, Vaya'an Bilam Vayomer Balak. Halo dibarti elech le'emor. Bilam says, what do you want from me? I told you this already. Kol asher yidaber Hashem, oto esa. Whatever God tells me, I'm going to do. And now we're preparing ourselves, gentlemen, to going to Mashal number 3. And he doesn't give up. Balak, Pasuk Kav Zayin, verse 27. Vayomer Balak el Bilam, lechana. Come on. Ekachacha, I'm going to take you. El makom acher. He doesn't give up. Ulai yishar b'nei, maybe to be good, straight in the eyes of God. V'kaboto li misham. And now, where does he take them? Pasuk 28. Vayikach Balak el Bilam, Rosh hapeor. Uh-oh. Hanishkaf al penei hayeshimon. There's a very disgraceful idolatry that belongs to the Moabites called Peor. Okay? Called the Peor. It's like lowering their pants, excreting their waste, and it's something very disgusting. We're going to talk more about it, but he thinks maybe this is related to a disgrace, related to humility, related to the lack of modesty. Maybe there's a power in the world that will work against the Jewish people. And Hanishka, from here, it observes a view al Pnei HaYeshimon, the wilderness. The wilderness. I really don't understand. I'm asking myself. By the way, Rashi says here that Balak himself was a magician, and through his magical powers that God allows him to believe in them, he sees that Israel will fall, will sin by or regarding the idolatry called the Peor. Can you spell the word Peor? Peor. Peor. Which letter comes from the throat? Gentlemen? Ayin. Ayin. Pe, ayin, vav, resh. Peor. He sees from the spiritual powers he has that in the future, and he doesn't know what, but something related to the Be'or is going to cause a terrible thing, which we're going to see tomorrow in the Parsha. And he takes him to this place. And of course, Pasuk 29, Vayomer Bilam Balak, B'nei li v'zeh again, build for me Shiva Mizbechot. V'cheni b'zeh Shiva Farim v'Shiva Ilim. Everything is now done. And We have the new chapter, Perek Kafdala, gentlemen. And here we have a new Re'iyah, a new vision. Vayar Bil'am. He's now not using his regular vision for Nachash, for sorcery or magic. And he's not looking in places that Israel will be sinning, but he's looking towards the Wat Yeshimon, the desert. He's looking in the area of the desert. Why? What did Israel do in the desert for the last 40 years? We had some mess ups. So he thought he's not looking at them where they are, but he's looking towards the desert, the open area where they're not, because there they failed. Maybe there's a weakness. That's why he's looking at the desert, as it says again in verse 24. Vayar Bilam saw ki tov b'nei Hashem, it's good in God's eyes, levrech et Yisrael, v'lo alach kefam b'fam g'lekrat nech Hashem. And therefore, vayashet el hamidbar panav. He's now viewing the area where they came from, where they had falls and declines. Give me some examples. What falls or declines did the Jewish people have in the midbar? Chet ha'egel, chet ha'meraglim, all the complainings and going up against Hashem and so on and so forth. So maybe now by looking that way, ayin hara, he can do things against Israel. Pasuk bet. Vayisav v'lamet einav, he raises up his eyes intellectually, not only physically. Vayar, and now he looks at Israel, probably down below, under the Moabite mountains here. And what does he see? Shochein lishvatav. He sees them dwelling, everyone in amazing order. Every tribe in its area. No mixing. Every tribe has their tribal character, their tribal talents, and their tribal features. What an amazing makeup of 12 tribes. Vatihi alav, upon Bilam at this moment, Ruach Elokim. Ruach Elokim. It could be that instead of being concentrated or consolidated in one area, it could be that we're dispersed to a certain amount of area and every tribe is in its own area. Okay? It doesn't mean that we're sitting now in the Arvot Moab, but like we said at the beginning of the Parsha, they could be scattered, as the Netziv says. And here he's trying a new thing. Pasuk Gimel. What does he say? All this, we're going to skip the introductory work of his psukim, and now we're going to go to the pasuk. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov. You want to sing it in D minor, please? Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Wow. Matovu ohalecha. Are you the guy that has a siddur with this pasuk in it? You? Yeah, you?
I have it.
In your siddur?
Yeah.
Wow. He's like number one on the hot list, isn't he? Bilam's prophecy here was adopted by our sages and placed in the Siddur in which prayer service? Shacharit. We have Yaakov mentioned here and Yisrael. We have Ohel, a tent, and we have Mishkenotecha. What's the difference between Ohel and Mishkan?
Mishkan is the Kedusha, the Kedusha.
Ohel is
The family,
sleeping place, temporary place. Mishkanotecha, places of God's presence, or more permanent places, correct? More permanent places. What about the goodness of the tents of Israel? Rashi says, in the name of the Midrash, it's a Gemara. Rashi says, you can see below verse 5, Al shera'a pitchehem she'einam mechuvanim ze mol ze. The entrances of each and every tent are not opposite one another. The Talmud in Masechet Baba Batra talks about the laws of damage, amongst other things, but tells us a new concept that we never learned in a different Gemara called Hezek Re'iyah. I repeat, Hezek Re'iyah, visual damage. What is visual damage? Mind your own business. Don't, when you're walking in the street, observe this person in his house, look at what's going on in his windows. He deserves his privacy. He's not you, you're not him. You're not the same. He has his matters. There's halacha from the Gemara into the Shulchan Aruch. When you build a house, build an apartment, don't build your entrance opposite the visual ability of people walking by that they can see this. In this case, in the crowded desert, one person did not have his tent opposite the entrance of another person. Okay? Why? To protect your discreet, your private matters that people will not see and observe. Because if people see and observe, it's lowering your value. It's lowering your privacy, lowering your prestige. And that's called hezek ri'iyah. Ri'iyah from the word lirot, to see. Damage, visual damage. Wow. We never saw that in our country. Matovu alecha Yaakov. And therefore something very good, very special that he sees regarding this matter. And then he says, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Could be that he's prophesying about the Mishkanot. What are the Mishkanot? The Mishkan that will be in Shiloh, the Holy Temple, okay, not only the tabernacle, but the Holy Temple that will be in Yerushalayim. Okay. One second. In other words, when we get to the fine details of Jewish life, we see how much we have to respect the privacy, the intimate matters of other people, and that we're not supposed to be observing. So that's a hard part of our life because often our eyes are attracted, the heart lusts, and our brain is easily taken away, and we see things that we're not supposed to be seeing. So here, Am Yisrael has great abilities that they can preserve what they have inside their eyes, and they should not look and see what others are doing. I wanted, well, that'll be it for right now, Mr. Steve. Ken? Shalom, gentlemen. I wanted to share with you